Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. After a long time, with the grace of all the Gurus in the Guru Parampara, I have started re-uploading my recordings due to a variety of reasons, which included myself needing a bit more clarity on the topics. I first begin my discourse with salutation to the author of the Bhagavad Gita and the person who was responsible for the segregation of Vedas into four, and the sole responsible being who has enabled us to uh, read through the scriptures, the epics such as the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Bhagavata. I invoke his presence and blessings through a shloka, Narayanam Namaskritya, Naram Chaiva Narottamam, Daivim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. With this humble invocation, let us dwell into the depth of the sea known as the Bhagavad Gita. First, we must understand that the Bhagavad Gita is much more beyond our everyday learning. It is the learning of the Atman, but it also offers various other approaches which enable us to observe that the Bhagavad Gita thinks about practicality much more than we do today. Let us first start with the first shloka, which says, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samavetaayuyutsavaha mamakav pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. The blind king Dhritarashtra, the king of Hastinapura, asked Sanjaya what is happening at Kurukshetra. But let us go into the deeper meaning of his question. He addresses Kurukshetra as Dharmakshetra. In order to understand why he did so, we need to go into the history of Kurukshetra and why it is called Dharmakshetra. Kurukshetra is a very small place between the rivers Saraswati and Drishadvati. It was also known as Brahmakshetra, Bhrugukshetra, and in the Ramayana it is named as Aryavrata and also referred as the Samanta Panchaka. But how did it get its name Kurukshetra? King Kuru was the ancestor of the Pandavas and the Kauravas. That is how their Vamsha was called Kuru Vamsha. King Kuru had a golden chariot. On his golden chariot, he rode into this place and used the wheels of his golden chariot to make a plow. Then he underwent intense tapas to Lord Shiva and Lord Dharma and borrowed Nandi and Dharma's Vahana, Paundraka, the buffalo. With the help of these two celestial animals, Kuru started plowing the fields of Kurukshetra with Nandi and Paundraka. Indra was very interested in what was happening. So he came down and asked Kuru, what are you doing? Why are you plowing the field with the help of a bull and a buffalo? Kuru told, I am sowing the seeds of the 8 dharmic gunas. Satya, which means truth, Yoga, which means penance, Karuna, which means kindness, Pavitrata, which means purity, Dharma, which means charity, Kshama, for forgiveness, Sannyasa, which means austerity, and Brahmacharya, which means celibacy. When Indra asked him why he was doing such an act, Kuru said that it was his wish that anyone who died on the field of Kurukshetra would have to directly go to heaven. But the Devatas did not approve this. They did not endorse the idea that a person who might have sinned in his past life would just come to Kurukshetra and die and go to Swarga. After that, Kuru was very adamant. He started doing intense penance in the name of Lord Shiva again and again till Indra had no choice but to grant Kuru's wish, but with a catch. Indra granted Kuru's wish, saying, anyone who dies fighting for dharma or performing penance would go to heaven. Or Indra also stated it as, any person who is performing his dharma will go to heaven. When we look into the dharmas, the kartavyas of a person, if a person is a brahmana, his karma is to perform rituals. His karma is to indulge himself in penance. When such a person indulges himself in penance and loses his life in Kurukshetra, only then would he go to Swarga. Even the similar way, if a person is a Kshatriya, he will have to die fighting on the battlefield. Only then would he go to Swarga. Krishna was very much aware of this, and being the wise person he is, chose Kurukshetra to be the venue for this Mahabharata Yuddha, so that every person who fought in this Yuddha would reach Swarga in some or other way. Such is the wisdom and the divine knowledge of the great Lord. In the beginning, Vidura was chosen to dictate the events of the Mahabharata to Dhritarashtra. But Dhritarashtra did not like Vidura narrating the events of the battlefield. This was because Vidura was too straightforward and would narrate incidents as they were, which was not pleasing for Dhritarashtra. In order to please Dhritarashtra, Bhishma Pitamaha, the grandfather of the Pandavas and the Kauravas, chose a righteous person who would do this task in a wise way. The son of charioteer Gavalgama, named Sanjaya, was extremely learned scholar and a dharmavan. Sanjaya was also intelligent and knew how to talk in a particular situation. So Bhishma chose Sanjaya to narrate the incidents of the Bharata to the blind king. When Dhritarashtra starts addressing the Pandavas and the Kauravas, he opens up by saying Mamakaha and Pandava. This is an open showcase of bifurcation. This is evidence that Dhritarashtra never saw Pandavas as his own sons. He always had a bias towards his own sons, the Kauravas, and a bias towards Pandavas, who he never assumed to be his own sons. And this is openly shown when he starts his statement by addressing his own sons as Mamakaha, that is my people, and addressing the sons of Pandu as Pandavaha. And then he addresses the gathering as Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Samaveta is an adjective to describe a gathering where everyone is equally skilled. So he already has knowledge that both the Pandavas and the Kauravas have equal skill amongst them. And Yuyutsu is the adjective used to describe a person who is ready for battle. This is derived from the Sanskrit word yuyuhu, which means the ability to fight, and yuyutsu is a person who wants to go to battle. In a similar way, a person who is thirsty is called pipakshu, a person who is hungry is called bubukshu, and a person who wishes for moksha is called mumukshu. Now, let us look into the characteristics of Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra, as we all know, was blind by birth, but Sanjaya addresses Dhritarashtra in such a way where he knows that Dhritarashtra is not only physically blind but also emotionally, shastrically blind, because he has immense love for his sons, and this love has blinded him of all his knowledge of the Shastras. This love has provoked him in such a way that he wants to ensure the Kaurava victory, and he does not even recognize his own brother's sons as his own. Such is his blind love. And when Dhritarashtra came to know of the holy past of Kurukshetra, he became scared because this is a place where so much dharma had been done, and his sons were going for a war where they were the people who were provoking it, they were the people who caused it. The Kauravas, when asked for 5 villages, denied the request. When they were requested for only 5 villages, they denied the request, and Krishna had to go back without a proper compromise. So, knowing this, Dhritarashtra was very scared of how this dharmic place is going to influence the adharmic mindset of his sons. As Sanjaya responds, he says, Drishtva to Pandavanekam Vyudham Duryodhanastha Acharyamupasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. Sanjaya is a very smart man, and thus he immediately understood the fear of his king. But the Mahabharata also describes a person to be smart when he does not increase the fear of an already scared person. But this must be done not with the untruth, but with the style of speech. So Sanjaya refers to Duryodhana as king. He starts his conversation with Dhritarashtra by calling Duryodhana as king, which makes Dhritarashtra very happy. He wants to see his son as a king, and when addressed as such, he starts dreaming Duryodhana of becoming a king. And he says, Duryodhana, King Duryodhana, after looking at the opponent's army, the array formed by the opponent, goes to the divine teacher Drona and starts talking to him. This is a representation of Duryodhana being a very good politician. When he does not have confidence, he goes immediately to his guru to gain confidence. And then he says, Paschaitan Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudham Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. This speech by Duryodhana is again another exposition of his ultimate diplomacy. He says, looking at the Pandavas' army, looking at the army framed by the sons of Pandu, Acharya, do you know who has framed this army, constructed this army, arranged this army? It is none other than your beloved Shishya, Drishtadyumna. But it is very important to understand as to why Duryodhana points out Drishtadyumna alone. Because Drishtadyumna was the son of Drupada, who was destined to kill Dronacharya. This is a very interesting story where Drupada and Dronacharya were childhood friends. Drupada went on to become a king while Dronacharya practiced the arts of archery. He became an expert archer and a great bowsman. At a point of time, as he was very poor, Drona went to request a cow from Drupada because he was not able to feed his own son. But at this, Drupada had become too proud as a king and laughed at Drona at his plight. Even though Drupada only meant it as a friendly laughter, Drona took it very seriously. He took it to heart and thus went to the great kingdom of Hastinapura and taught the Pandavas and the Kauravas. When asked for Guru Dakshina, he asked the Pandavas to go and defeat Drupada and bring him back alive. The Pandavas duly did it. They defeated Drupada and the mighty kingdom of Panchala, tied up Drupada's arms, and brought him in front of their Guru. Drona at that point of time laughed at Drupada and let him go. Drupada could not bear this insult at all. It was as though Drona had granted him the bhiksha of life, and this enraged him so much that he performed a yajna. He performed a yajna praying the Lord that he required a son who would kill Drona. But from the sacrificial flames, not only did Drishtadyumna emerge, but along with them also did emerge Draupadi, who went on to become the wife of the Pandavas. Very craftily, Drupada sent his son Drishtadyumna under the, the teaching of Drona. Drona, being the perfect teacher, taught Drishtadyumna every art he knew and made him a very valiant Kshatriya. Having learnt all these arts, Drishtadyumna now used his skills to construct an army of great array structure. Looking at this, Duryodhana sarcastically says, "O Guru, you taught your student selflessly, and now look at what it has become. He has structured the army in such a way that it looks very terrific. It looks very frightful, and this is your fault. You taught him all these, knowing that he would be the person to kill you. Is it not your flaw that you did it? Is it not your flaw that you taught him everything, still knowing that Drishtadyumna would become a valiant Kshatriya who would end up killing you?" But he does not want to blame his teacher. So he goes on to say, Drishtadyumna is only a small bit of our problem. We also have many other people. Atra shura maheshwasa bhimarjuna samayudhi yuyudhano viratascha drupadascha maharatha. This exposes Duryodhana's fearful side. As to how a leader fears the strong members of the opposition, Duryodhana points out particular members of the Pandava army and shows Drona how many people have decided to side with the Pandavas. First, he talks about Yuyudhana, who he thinks is equal in prowess to Bhima and Arjuna. He says Yuyudhana is present. We must understand why Yuyudhana is of great importance. Yuyudhana is also called Satyaki. Yuyudhana was a close friend and a follower of Lord Krishna. He was a Yadava by birth. When the Yadavas were asked to join the Kurukshetra battle, they split into two armies. One of the armies, led by Yuyudhana, joined Pandava's side, while the other joined the Kauravas' side, led by Kritavarma. Satyaki is of great importance in our scriptures. He was an equipped Ayurvedic physician, and he was an expert in Shalya Shastra, which is the art of surgery, and Shalakya Shastra, which is the health concerns related to the eye. He is also mentioned by Dalhana in Timir and by Chakrapani in Charaka's Netra Roga books. He was of such great importance as he not only played a great role as a bowman but also as a healer and a doctor in the fields of Mahabharata. Next, Duryodhana points to Virata. Virata, who we know was the father-in-law of Abhimanyu. He also offered the Pandavas a place when they had nowhere to go and were in exile. Duryodhana points to Virata for a very important reason. Virata was the king of Matsya, and Duryodhana had already faced defeat at the hands of Virata once when he tried to attack the Matsya kingdom, but Brihannada, who was then Arjuna's Swarupa, came and fought alongside Virata and helped them win the battle. Duryodhana is afraid because he does not want to repeat a loss again, and this time Virata is not alone. He is supported by Duryodhana, Satyaki, Drupada, and the Pandavas themselves. Next, he talks about Drupada. Drupada was the king of Panchala and, as we all know, was a friend of Drona. In addition to this, he was also the father-in-law of the Pandavas. In such way, Drupada was related to the Pandavas and fought in the Pandavas' side. Next, Duryodhana talks about even more various warriors. He says, Drishtaketushcheti tanah Kashirajascha Viryavan Purujit Kunti Bhojascha Shaibhyascha Narapungavaha. He says, Drishtaketu is present among the army. Drishtaketu was the king of the Chedi kingdom, which is now called Bundelkhand. The capital of the Chedi kingdom was called Suktimati. But most importantly, Drishtaketu was the son of Shishupala, but yet he went on to side with the Pandavas. This, according to the great orator, the great writer Bananjay Govindacharya, was what shocked Duryodhana most. He did not expect certain people to go and join hands with the Pandavas, and when they did, it broke him internally. He started wondering, what great things have the Pandavas achieved that these many people are flocking up to the Pandavas and joining their side? What do they don't see in the army of the great Duryodhana that they went and joined the Pandavas and ignored me when I asked their hands for help? One such person was Drishtaketu. Being Shishupala's son, Duryodhana expected Drishtaketu to join his army, but Drishtaketu went and joined the Pandavas' army, causing a great array of dismay for Duryodhana. Along with Drishtaketu is also his son Chekitana, who was also a great warrior. Then he also talks about Kashi Raja, which is again of great importance for a very huge reason. At that time, Kashi was ruled by two warriors, two kings, and Kashi was not a single constituency, not a single place. It was split into two. Now, what troubled Duryodhana to a great extent that was that his father-in-law was also a king of Kashi, and the other king of Kashi sided with the Pandavas. His father-in-law had died very recently in a war which had caused the entire Kashi army to side with the new king. This caused distress to Duryodhana because he did not just lose his father-in-law, but he also lost his father-in-law's army. He lost his support, and this pains him, and thus he remembers his father-in-law at this time of strife. Then he points to Purujit. Purujit was the son of Kunti Bhoja and a brother of Kunti. Purujit means one who has conquered many. This is a title he gained and not a name. His initial name is not known, but he was given the title Purujit because he conquered many people. Along with Purujit, even Kunti Bhoja came and fought in the war. Kunti Bhoja was was the brother of Shurasena, and he adopted Shurasena's daughter because he did not have a daughter of his own, and that daughter is Kunti. What we must observe from this is, at a time in the Dwapara Yuga, when the Mahabharata took place, the mindset of the people had evolved to a great level where they were able to adopt people. Their mindset was so broad that it could accept adoption. Even if we look at Krishna's heritage, Krishna was adopted by Nandagopa and he was raised as if Krishna was his own son. These are few aspects of Mahabharata where Vedavyasa throws light at the great features and characteristics of the people present in the Mahabharata Yuddha. And the Mahabharata as a whole, in general. We also look at great scientific concepts such as test tube births, as in the case of Gandhari, and we also look at the cases of nuclear weaponry where the son of Drona, Ashwathama, tries to use nuclear weapon upon the Pandava camp and destroy all the people with the help of the Brahmastra. Thus, we were talking about Kunti Bhoja, who had adopted his own brother's daughter and raised her as if she was her own. And as he was very dear to Kunti, he obliged to engage in this battle. Also, was Shaibhya in the war. Shaibhya was the father-in-law of Yudhishthira and thus was very ferocious in military power. Even he joined the Mahabharata Yuddha, which caused great displeasure to Duryodhana, as he thought all these people were very old and would not join the Pandavas in this, according to him, suicidal mission of colliding with the great force of the Kauravas. Duryodhana did not expect such a great army to be present before him, and these words that he talks are more of fear and shock rather than dismay. So let us dwell more on the great warriors present and why they are so great. And in the next session of the discourse, we will also go in detail about the legacy of the great Gandiva bow and why it is so great. So for today, let us conclude our session by chanting and praying Lord Narayana to give us power, grace, and mental stability to go past the pandemic we are currently suffering and lead a normal life again. Govindeति sada dhyanam, Govindeti sada japam, Govindeti sada dhyanam, Sada Govinda Kirtanam.